Hey, good morning, people. It's Friday, and it's the beginning of just the build up to the whole Easter and the Passover theme. And this is the greatest week in church history that's about to come upon us. And so I just want to say, I hope you make the most of it. I hope you suck every ounce of good spiritual strength and understanding from the week that is soon to come. In light of this week that we call Passion Week, which begins on Sunday, this coming Sunday, we're going to be talking in church and during the course of the week about the last week of Jesus' life. So much of each of the Gospels was dedicated to this particular period of time in his life. So next week's devotionals are going to be focusing on one of the incidences that took place in every day from Sunday through to Sunday, of one of the aspects of what took place during that period of time, and we're going to be looking at that progressively. So I want to invite you right up front here to join with us on Sunday morning. I'm going to be doing our devotionals right from Sunday through to Sunday. It's not just going to be a Monday to Friday deal. That's a cop-out. We're going to make the most of this beautiful week we call Passion Week or Holy Week. And I hope that you're able to join us from Sunday morning right the way through to Sunday morning the following week as we look at the last week of the life of Jesus. But right now, we're into Joel chapter 2, particularly verse 25, where Joel says to the people, you've messed up. The bad news is it could get worse. But you know what? God's heart is not one of punishment. God's heart is one of restoration. And he goes so far as to say in verse 25 of chapter 2, he says that he will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. That's a great promise from God, that he will restore to us that beautiful thing. It picks up on the beautiful theme of God's desire, and his heart is to restore. He's not one who wants to make a mess of your life. He's not one that wants to punish you unduly. He wants to restore you to himself. From the Garden of Eden, this theme was set because it was the Garden of Eden that the things fell apart and we broke our relationship with God. But from the Garden of Eden right through to the end of time, God's heart is to restore. Just have a look at the relationship with Israel. God was saying, even though you've messed up, I want to restore you. Jesus came along with that one mission to restore us to himself. He told stories about fathers who restored sons. He told a beautiful picture, and we see it in the cross, is a picture of the depth and the incredible height that God will go to restore you to him, and me to him, and you to me, and me to others, and you to others. The gospel is a gospel of restoration from start to finish. But here we have just one aspect of God's passion to restore. I will restore to you, he says through the prophet of Joel, the years that the locusts have eaten. Now we've been looking at the terminology of a shepherd. We looked at that verse where he restores my soul from Psalm 23. God is interested in the restoration, primarily not of your finance or of your health, although those are true. He's incredibly intentional about restoring your soul. Now, shepherd's terminology speaks about sheep that have become cast, and we've looked at this last week or two over the reason that a sheep becomes cast. I want to finish it this week by talking about how a shepherd restores his cast sheep. When a shepherd sees a sheep that is being cast and is lying helpless on its back with its legs up in the air for whatever the reason may be, you'll never see a shepherd come and say, oh, you stupid darn sheep, what the heck are you doing? Why have you done this? He doesn't do that. He rolls the sheep gently onto its side, and then he lifts it with great strength to its feet. And then he rubs its legs to restore the blood flow that it has lost. And he whispers beautiful words of encouragement into the ears of that sheep. And if necessary, we read in John how that shepherd will lift that sheep upon his shoulders, and he will walk that sheep back to where the fold is or where the other sheep are. He restores with deep compassion and incredible gentleness. He doesn't restore with harsh words. When I think of somebody being restored, I think of Peter after having walked on the water And he took his eyes off Jesus, and he's crying in a second, help me, Jesus, I'm sinking. And I don't see Jesus standing in the midst of the storm reprimanding him, saying, oh, Peter, look what you've done. Why did you keep your eyes on me, you fool? You should have just been far more astute in the way that you behaved. And, you know, he leans down and he takes Peter by the hand and he restores him with great compassion and words of, I'm sure, great encouragement. Peter, well done. At least you tried, Peter. You did a good job. I'm right here with you. I will restore you, because that's what my heart is all about. And we see Jesus so beautifully restoring Peter to his rightful place. But I want to tell you this too, that he doesn't always restore with your comfort in mind. Whenever Jesus restored somebody, there was always something that that person had to do. Very seldom did Jesus restore just without somebody doing something. He says to the man, if you want your withered arm to be restored, stick it out. He says to Peter, if you want to find me, get out of the boat. He says in a beautiful picture with Naaman in the Old Testament. Naaman had leprosy. And Jesus said, I want to restore you. Through the prophet, he said, the prophet told him, God is able to restore you to full health and strength. But you, Naaman, have to get uncomfortable and you have to dip yourself 7 times into the Jordan River. And Naaman's saying, oh man, do I have to do that? Isn't there a more comfortable way that I can do this? And the prophet said, no, not at all. God will restore you, but it's not always with your comfort in mind. That's why we have terminology that we use about God pruning us. God takes us like a vine and says, I need you to be more fruitful. In order for you to be more fruitful, it's not comfortable, I'm sorry about this, but I'm going to prune you in order to restore you to a greater sense of fruitfulness. Puts the children of Israel through the wilderness. It wasn't being mean, it wasn't being ugly. He was pruning, he was preparing them for the blessing that they would one day receive when they got to the promised land. So maybe today, as we've concluded this, to have a look at our own lives, I almost want to apologize for the simplicity of what we've been speaking about these last couple of weeks, about being cast and the reasons that we're cast and all of those unbelievably almost commonsensical things. But people, we have common sense. If we're going to have it, we need to use it. Have a look at your own life. And finish having had a look at the reasons that maybe you have become cast and say, well, if I've become cast, it's not the end of the road. God is able to restore me. But before he restores to me the years that the locusts have eaten, he needs to restore me to himself. Think about that as we conclude today. But have a great weekend and a great week that is to follow, as on Palm Sunday, this coming Sunday, we begin the journey into the ultimate, beautiful, magnificent picture of God's unbelievable desire to restore you and me to himself. I hope you join us with that journey. But have a look at your life. You've been cast, not the end of the day. Cry out to God for his restoration, and he'll do what only he can do. Gosh, man, this is incredible stuff. But you guys go and have a great weekend now, and hopefully we'll see you on Sunday. That'll be great. Bye-bye.